What's up, Joe fans? In today's episode, we've got a ton to dive into. What does the new Cobra defense perimeter tell us about future classified releases? What's different about the new G.I.JOE Classified crystal ball? And what figures are coming next? We've got answers on all of that and a lot more. Watch until the end. This episode is jam-packed with a lot of updates. First up, let's talk about the next event for Hasbro, Hasbro 1027. The Hasbro team has hinted that there will be a very popular release at 1027. Odds are, it's Nemesis Immortal. But the Joe team does have a few surprises up their sleeves, and there are still a few more events this fall, so anything is possible. What we know for now is that Nemesis Immortal is due soon, and so is the Cobra Claw with its pilot. Following those, the next mainline wave will feature Blowtorch, Darklon, Frag Viper, and Footloose. All things considered, it's a good time to be a Joe fan. Next, let's talk about the Cobra Defense Perimeter. This is a Hasbro Pulse exclusive item, and this is the first official G.I.JOE Classified playset. The Hasbro team has said that this is going to be their first venture into a diorama piece, and that's interesting wording because it suggests that there's more to come. The defense perimeter is a mix of the Cobra bunker and the surveillance port. Emily from the Hasbro team referred to it as a bunker, so let's not get too tied up with what the name is. No matter what you call it, we all know what this is. Earlier this year, Lenny from the G.I.JOE team said that they've spoken about making playsets, but that it's necessary to take a different approach to them based on size. He added that something like a watchtower is likely too tall for collectors to make room for on their display shelves or in display cases, so he emphasized that they have to consider the utility of a playset versus just the logistics of how it would work. In other words, if there's more of a use for a specific playset or a connection to the rest of the line, then that might matter more to Hasbro than something like how big or tall it is. From what Lenny has said, one of the considerations they have in mind when it comes to playsets and vehicles is which adds more value to the line, making one of those, or making 5 figures instead. He added that in future years, after the lines have been built out with figures, it might make more sense to create vehicles and playsets more than making more figures. He said they're essentially trying to figure out what collectors need at any given time. Now, with all of that in mind, the Hasbro team is doing exactly what they said they would. The defense perimeter is a great option for playsets because it serves a purpose without taking up too much shelf space. There are separate pieces for the walls, a floor base, and a roof. The utility of its design is pretty much perfect, as the units can be stacked together to build up and out. It's even possible to build entire walls with these, and create a defense grid for Cobra. The Hasbro team often speaks about building a world of play, and the defense perimeter opens the door to a lot of interesting possibilities for playsets. Let's take a look at what's included. There are sandbags, ladders, a turret, a spotlight, a radar, and 2 posts. Meanwhile, this also comes with a figure, the Trench Viper. This has the Alley Viper riot shield, head, neck, and secondary vest. Then it has Stalker's arms and torso, Retro Duke's legs and boots, Tripwire's shoulder plate, and the base color is a dark navy blue, and it features a black and white digital camo. The Trench Viper is another form of Alley Viper, and it's the perfect choice for the Cobra defense perimeter. After all, the Alley Vipers are intended to set up a perimeter, establish a presence, and then carry out controlled chaos. Their bright colors are intended to be intimidating, and in the case of the Trench Viper, it's the digital camo that makes them stand out. From a world of play standpoint, it makes perfect sense for Cobra to have outposts which can be easily assembled anywhere at the drop of a hat. So this is a great idea and smart execution of a small diorama piece which can be used to build up and out, or to complement the figures and vehicles that already exist in the line. From a packaging standpoint, everything can be built and assembled out of the box. The flat walls of the defense perimeter can be stacked inside the packaging. If you're enjoying this, hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed. Next up, the Mass Device Snake Eyes and Polar Bear. And first up, I've got to say that Hasbro would be wise to max out their production quantities for this set. Once the diorama images are revealed showing Snake Eyes glowing from the radioactive crystal, or the polar bear being given some dramatic lighting, and even just standing up on its 2 hind feet, interest is going to skyrocket. Accessories here include the vintage laser rifle from the cartoon series, the bear trap which caught timber, a radioactive canister, a red crystal in a clear display case, 3 sets of glowing hands, 1 set of normal hands, and let's point out, the Snake Eyes figure and his pink hands all glow under black light. It also includes a handgun and a knife, and the polar bear has 2 separate head sculpts. There's even an extra shoulder panel with arrows lodged in it. This can be attached to the bear's left shoulder to replace the normal panel. So there's a lot of storytelling going on here directly from the cartoon series back in the 80s. This Snake Eyes is a repaint of the retro Snake Eyes, and the radioactive glow is a very nice gimmick. Some will have no interest in this because they have enough Snake Eyes figures, and that's understandable. Meanwhile, others will recall that the Master of Disguise Zartan, which featured color-changing skin when placed in cold temperatures, is still one of the most sought-after G.I. Joe Classified figures, so we anticipate that the glowing feature will create more lasting value than most other figures. When we consider that this also includes a fully articulated polar bear, there's ample reason to believe that this could become one of the most iconic G.I. Joe sets of all time, and there's reason to believe that it will sell out on the first day. Time will tell. Looking ahead, we expect 2 more mass device items. Just for the fun of speculation, here's what we think is on the way next. A snake armor mech suit, and it could possibly come with Flash, as well as the Polar Battle Bear snowmobile, and we think it might come with Arctic Scarlet. We already predicted the radioactive Snake Eyes with a polar bear and the radioactive glow on the figure, so let us know if you'd be interested in a snake armor mech suit or the Polar Battle Bear snowmobile. Drop your comments down below. Next, let's move over to the retro card line. Lenny from the G.I. Joe team has said a few times in the past that essentially every figure that's made for Classified will end up with a retro card edition at some point. And he's clarified that this includes sub-teams like Tiger Force and the others. In short, G.I. Joe Classified has a long way to go, or at least for as long as collectors are interested. The retro card line features characters in the same vintage or similar styles as the O-ring figures from back in the 80s. And let's jump over to one of the new ones right now. Retro Dr. Mindbender. Compared to the deluxe exclusive Dr. Mindbender, this has an updated vintage look. It has brighter, more vibrant purple to match the color of the O-ring figure, and there's a new soft goods cape with no seam down the middle of the cape, so this allows Hasbro to add the Cobra logo on the back. That was not included in the deluxe edition. As a mainline retro card release, it will be much more available to collectors compared to the deluxe one. And as we've learned in the past, there should be more quantities available closer to the date of its release. Then next over to the Retro Cobra Viper. This one has an all-new vest, new gauntlets for the arms, and of course they are removable. Overall, there's a brighter color scheme, and it's pretty close to the original loadout from the O-ring figure. There's a lot of reuse here from Retro Cobra Commander, and it works well. In terms of hands, there are 3 sets, and all of them are from the Retro Cobra Commander figure. From the waist up, it's Cobra Commander, but the arms and legs are new Cobra Viper parts. The red padding on the legs extends down the entire side of the legs, not just halfway this time. The arms and legs are pinless, whereas the Cobra Island edition was not. There's also reuse of Leatherneck's backpack, and while it's not exactly the same rifle, this rifle is the same shade of gray as the O-ring Viper's rifle. He has a back holster for his sidearm, and let's just call it right now. This is the best Cobra Viper figure in the Classified series so far. Not only is the Retro Cobra Viper going to be a highly anticipated release, but this also means that future Vipers in different color palettes will be just as good. If you're enjoying this, hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed. Then next over to Retro Rock and Roll. This one is from his green shirt phase, and just like the original Joe's, with no tattoos. Expect to see a lot more of the vintage OG-13 look and green shirts in the very near future. That's all I will say about that. Once again, this is the best rock and roll that we're likely ever going to get. Next over to Footloose. This is the vintage style of Footloose, and it's hard to imagine what changes will be made to a retro Footloose, unless it's just a different shade of his camo. For accessories, this includes a machine gun, a handgun, a knife, a backpack, a helmet, and a bazooka. Then over to the Legacy Collection. The Firefighter figure is an homage to the Firefighter release from the 60s. It features heavy reuse from Snowjob and the Snow Serpent. This is their body mold. And I gotta say, this is one of the best overall figure molds, so this figure will not disappoint. Accessories include Ripper's Jaws of Life, a large sledgehammer, a crowbar, 1 large axe, a fire helmet, a mask, goggles, 2 head sculpts, a mallet, 2 hatchets, an oxygen tank, and a fire retardant blanket. This is the first of 2 first responders. Another will be revealed in 2025 as part of the Legacy Collection, and we feel very confident that it's a medic. Next, let's talk about Crystal Ball. During Hasbro's New York Comic Con panel, Emily from Hasbro said that this is not your classic Crystal Ball. She said that the Joe team has taken Crystal Ball in an amazing direction. That was all that was said. Now, some people are twisting Hasbro's words here to suggest that Crystal Ball will look very different. While that might be true, that's not what Hasbro said. All we know for sure is, according to Hasbro, the G.I. Joe team has taken Crystal Ball in a quote-unquote amazing direction, and that it won't be an exact replica of the original O-ring style. As for what that means, no one knows for sure, but when we know more, we will let you know. Next, over to Snake Eyes version 4. This was teased earlier in the year by Lenny from the G.I. Joe team, so this was no surprise. We've kind of been waiting for this one to be announced. The good news for collectors, the version 4 of Snake Eyes is a very popular style, so we expect this will move some units. And then next, Darklon. As we've been saying for months, Darklon is on the way, and now it's finally official. His signature weapon has already been found overseas. Now, many collectors were already out on G.I. Joe before Darklon came along, but for an entire generation of younger Joe fans who were around after the 87 point, Darklon will create a lot of demand. This guy's a vicious character, a dangerous looking figure, and I personally can't wait to see how the sculpting has gone on this figure. As we've told you many times previously, there will be more G.I. Joe Classified reveals this fall. There should be more announcements and pre-orders on any of the following dates this fall. Hasbro's 10/27 event will be on October 27th. The MCM Comic Con will happen in London from October 25th to the 27th. And the MCM Comic Con will happen in Birmingham, England on November 29th. And there you have it. You've made it to the end of this episode, and we really appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. And we would love it even more if you take just 1 second of your time. Make sure that down below you are subscribed to the channel. We ask that you do, because that guarantees that we definitely get to see you back here again next time. Thanks for tuning into Viper Island, your one-stop shop for all things G.I. Joe. When there's relevant news, we'll be here to discuss all of it, together with you. Thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, have a great day, and yo Joe!